Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another session of the Skype meeting broadcast for IT pros and for those people who love their IT pros. Today, we have a very special guest joining me for a topic that is near and dear to my heart as the client specialist for Skype meeting broadcast and Skype in general is getting started with VDI and VMware. So again, I'm Paul Cannon. I'm a senior product marketing manager here at Microsoft, and I focus on Skype, both on client issues as well as IT pro messaging. Joining me today is my buddy from VMware, Tony. Tony, can you say hello?
Hey Paul, how's it going? Thanks for having me here again today, and it's always my pleasure to come up to Microsoft, visit the team, and actually share with the broader team basically what we're doing at VMware to add Skype for Business support with Horizon VDI.
Awesome. That's going to be great. I'm really excited about this topic, and I'll cover into you why, from the Microsoft side, we're so excited. Tony's then going to take you through a little bit of the architecture so you can get a feeling for what it's all about. And then, if the gods of demo are kind to us, Tony and I, when I say Tony and I, I'm really saying Tony will do all the heavy lifting, and he'll do a demo for us. And then finally, we'll talk a little bit about what's coming next in this space. And then maybe a little bit of ask to hang out with you in Vegas. We'll see about that, huh?
Yep.
Alrighty, great. So how about we cut over to the slides? That would be great.
Absolutely.
And it looks like we're all set up.
Yep.
And so great. So I wanted to set the stage a little bit about what's going on in our market and how Microsoft sees that market. So, as we go forward, we see collaboration increasing greatly. And you've seen us plug things like Microsoft Teams, and as part of that is also unified communications, which is Skype for Business, right? And so we see things, for instance, like many more devices being used by the average user. And when there's many more devices, what we're really talking about are things like mobile and tablet. And what we also see is that by 2020, we think almost 3/4 of all users are going to be working quite a bit remotely. And that's huge, especially if you happen to be a VDI provider, right, Tony?
Absolutely, and that goes to what we're seeing also. I mean, today basically many of our customers are telling us they not only have employees working from within office, but also working remotely, whether it's at home or at let's say while they're traveling. And as such, basically, having support for remote connectivity to VDI, but also being able to communicate and collaborate using Skype for Business is crucial for many of our customers.
Yeah, that's huge. And that's really one of the driving forces behind why we're partnering, especially from the VMware side. Yeah. So the other thing I really want to point out is around Office 365. We have approached the 100 million user mark. And that's amazing, right? And it shows you the breadth and depth of the product across. And some of my favorite people should be watching this broadcast right now. The IT pros, those people who buy it and those people who sell it are all checking out what's going on with Skype for Business. And we know that means, again, a lot of users are not just sitting at their traditional desk bound with a wire. Yeah. They are working hard from all different locations and in different industries as well. Yeah. So could you...
so what we're seeing also is, this project was very strategic and important for VMware. We're seeing Skype for Business in northwards of 80% of our accounts, so that's why it's so critical for us to basically add Skype for Business support with VMware Horizon. Yeah. Not only as basically, VMware is a big customer of Skype for Business, where our whole company uses Office 365, but many of our customers and partners also leverage Skype for Business as their main unified communications and collaborations platform.
Yeah. So, and I have to remember also as well to take a moment to plug, we do have a couple of things happening. So on the main video, you can see Tony and myself as well as slides. But on the side, we have the Bing Pulse, and where we're going to ask you survey questions about what you're doing in yours. Now, we're not collecting personal information, but we are collecting market information so we understand where you guys are at, both with Microsoft and VMware. So if really helps us a lot and helps us shape the future of these broadcasts if you answer those questions. Also, we have a Q&A window open as well. I have sequestered Raj Gopalakrishnan in another room, and he is answering your questions. And Raj occasionally will pull those questions out and drop them into an IM chat window for me, and so then I can ask Tony those questions. So please start asking your questions there and keep us going. So continuing on with Office 365, you know, the Office 365 really builds on the success of older Microsoft products, things like Outlook and SharePoint. And we have some stats here for you around how those are doing, right? 60, I think that was 60 petabytes I think I saw go by. It's an amazing amount of information we're storing up there. There's only a couple other companies even in the world who can challenge us in this global market and data centers for Office 365. So, and with that, Skype for Business is one of the key components of that Office 365 business, and it's growing tremendously based on the items we talked about earlier. But we do have some challenges. You know, as I told you at the beginning of this cast, I'm in charge of clients. And so, you know, what is the first rule of a product marketing manager and clients? Well, we have to cover all the important platforms to customers, right? Yeah. If we have a gap, that's not going to work out. And so one of the challenges I've had over the last couple of years is really how do we solve this last mile gap with certain configurations, either in vertical markets or we experience gaps with Linux. And so this is why we reached out to VMware to be one of our partners in VDI, you know, Tony, and I think you guys see that as well, right?
Absolutely. So, you know, as I go out, we talk to many of our customers. They have requirements to access their virtual desktops, not only from Windows devices, but also Linux and Mac devices. Yeah. Many of the, you know, a lot of executives use Mac as their preferred client platform. But, you know, being able to access their VDI desktop from a variety of devices is crucial, as well as being able to continue to use Skype for Business so they can, you know, have all the rich features, rich audio, rich video, as well as things like, you know, collaboration tools. That's crucial for our customers.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And, you know, and from the Microsoft side, Tony, like I was talking about, you know, I get escalations, and probably some of you field people in Europe are on this call right now and probably just waiting to escalate again to me. But I get these escalations. They're like, hey, I've got this customer, a well-known company, by the way. I can't mention their name. We don't have the clearance to do it, but a name that would be recognized by most people. And they have 5,000 developers running on Linux platform, right?
Oh, wow.
But they want to use Skype for Business as their enterprise communication. So how do we solve that problem? Well, there's lots of different ways, but the reality is we're probably not going to ever build a native Linux client, right? So if we're not going to do that, then we need great partners like you guys to help extend those desktops, right, and bring them in.
Absolutely.
And it's a win-win because it means you guys then are able to support those customers in other workloads as well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. That's great. Okay, so so with that, that's just a little bit of a setup about the market. We're going to turn it over to Tony, and now he's going to do the heavy lifting part of this call, and he's going to talk a little bit about the solution and some of the architecture for it. Take it away, Tony.
Absolutely. So with our recently released version of Horizon 7.2, we now have a generally available version of the Skype for Business Horizon Virtualization Pack. And what this is going to allow our customers to do now is fully use the Skype for Business client inside their Horizon Virtual Desktop and make rich audio and video calls. In this slide deck, basically what you're going to see is on the left-hand side, bottom left-hand side, is a solution whereby prior to having the solution, when customers use the Skype for Business client to make an audio or video call, all the audio and video would be hairpinned through your data center. And what that does is that basically it you know, reduces the you know, server consolidation ratio and basically impacts your virtual infrastructure, whether it's bandwidth or just computing. It's going to take a hit on your virtual infrastructure. With this new solution now, basically on the lower right-hand side, we have an optimized solution that completely bypasses your data center. So when you're making an audio or video call, all the video and audio is delivered point-to-point and completely bypasses your you know, your virtual data center. So again, you're not going to get you know, you're not going to have bandwidth explosion, and you're not going to have a hit on your computing infrastructure.
Yeah, that's gigantic, Tony, and I just want to draw that line underneath that. There's a lot of value in a VDI solution, but the key one that everyone has to keep in mind is that the first important part is that we don't send all your audio and video to as my mother would use a different word, but I'll say heck and back, right? Like we just send that audio and video all over the place, and then you get poor performance, we get out of sync. It's like watching some old movie where people are doing kung fu and nobody's voices and actions are aligned at all, right? So we want that lined up, and that's exactly what VDI is going to do for us.
Absolutely, absolutely. So just to kind of recap some of the highlights of the solution, with this optimized peer-to-peer solution, you're going to get maximum scalability when you make an audio or video call, because you're leveraging the client endpoints to do all the heavy lifting with the audio and video processing. You're not going to use, your virtual infrastructure to do all the media processing. So again, scalability is, one of the main benefits for the solution. The second thing is that by leveraging the client endpoints to do all the media processing and sending the audio and video stream between the two different client endpoints, you get point-to-point media delivery. So if your network is basically configured with QoS policies to prioritize audio and video from Skype for Business, because we pull all the audio and video out of the display protocol, well, your networking policies are already configured to prioritize audio video, give it the proper treatment. So again, basically, you're going to get point-to-point audio, and you're going to get all the benefits of rich, high-quality audio and video. And finally, the key thing for us is that we continue to offer a rich experience with the solution. So by leveraging the native Skype codecs, we're going to be able to deliver that rich audio and video experience. But we're going to also optimize the bandwidth because we're using the same codecs as a native Skype for Business client would.
Yeah, and I think that's really key, right? Yeah. So now folks will be able to actually run those Skype for Business calls right from that remote session and get all the benefits of not only these three items you mentioned, but security as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yep. So, some key highlights, right? What I want to call out here is that, with the Skype for Business client, there are many rich features, functionalities. You can do instant messaging, have presence. But in order to make an audio-video call, the key component that you need to add is the Horizon Media Engine. And basically, it's highlighted on the lower right-hand side. But if you're not using the Skype for Business client to make audio and video calls, you really don't need the Media Engine. I mean, you can just leverage the native Skype for Business client.
Yep. Right. So again, that media engine really makes things like video and audio be a much better experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. So let's go through the architecture. So in this, architecture diagram, what you're going to see here is that we created two new components. One that is installed inside the virtual machine called the Horizon Media Proxy, and another is called the Horizon Media Provider, which is installed on the client endpoint. Now, so let's say you're using your client machine and you're connecting from your client machine to your VDI desktop. The minute the connection is established, the two components are going to communicate and pair up over the virtual channels. So the key thing here is that customers can use Blast Extreme, which is our recommended protocol, or they can also use PCIP. It doesn't matter, right? The key thing now is that the end users can use the native Skype for Business client fully. They can fully use it to communicate with their fellow employees. But the minute they want to either instantiate or receive an audio or video call, the Horizon Media Provider or engine on the client endpoint is going to take over, and it's going to do all the heavy lifting with audio and video. Now, so let's say, for example, Paul, you're making a call to me,
right.
So I'm going to receive an inbound call from you.
Right.
All the signaling is still going to be done natively through the Skype for Business client, but the minute that the RTP session is started, whether it's audio or video, that media provider on the client endpoint is going to take over. It's going to process the audio and video, and it's going to send it directly from my endpoint to your endpoint.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Makes sense. We got one of our first questions, Tony, while we're in it. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to interrupt you.
Sure
We'll
thing.
just try to see if we can throw you off your slides as best as we can. One of the questions is just to reconfirm, and I think you mentioned already, but we just want to underline. In fact, I think it's on this slide now that I look down at it. So I don't even know I need to have you answer it. I think actually the marketing guy could answer it. So the question was, do we support both Skype for Business Server, which is an on-prem configuration, and Office 365? The answer is yes. The solution does support both?
Absolutely.
Correct? Great. And so what that means is why that's possible is because the work being done is not on the back end. So we've really minimized that footprint of change to the overall product. And instead, it's the Windows client that's providing the API to support the VDI work that you guys do.
Absolutely. And it was key for us also, VMware being a big customer of Microsoft. We have over 20,000 employees, and we're all on Office 365. So it was not only crucial for our customers, but also for VMware.
Yep. Great.
All right, so with the Horizon 7.2 release, this is a highlight of the features that are supported with this new virtualization pack. What you'll see is that majority of the features that most customers want to leverage and use are supported already. Things like point-to-point audio and video calls, using the PSTN dial pad to make calls out to the PSTN or public switch telephony network. Many of the rich supplementary service features that customers are used to, whether it's call hold, transfer, forward, resume, things like that, right? As well as basically being able to make calls through the mediation server for remote connectivity. Now on the right-hand side, for features that are not supported, things like multi-party audio or video conferencing are not supported.
Yet, I would say, right?
Yeah, yeah. So the key thing here is yet, right?
Right.
And the key thing I want to highlight is that we're releasing a new version of the Horizon Virtualization Pack every quarter, and what you're going to find is that we're actually very active, and we're actually very focused on adding these new capabilities. So stay tuned. We're going to release another version pretty soon, and what you'll see is many of these features on the right-hand side are going to be moved into the supported column.
That sounds good. Yeah, as you can see, I'm taking this chance to harass poor Tony, no matter where we're at, and it probably would be appropriate in a private conversation. But just like you guys drive us relentlessly for features, we will drive our partners relentlessly for features as well. So,
absolutely.
Yep.
All right, so now we're going to do a demo. I'm going to make a call to my teammate Anurag at Palo Alto.
Yeah, this is going to be, as Tony gets set up, this is going to be very exciting, as Tony will go ahead and make this call. So you'll have to give us a little bit of your kindness in case we run into anything. It's always exciting to do a live demo, right? We could have tried to trick you with just a couple of slides or whatever, but instead, we're going to walk the tightrope. Well, Tony's going to walk the tightrope, and I will stand on the edge of the precipice and try to make sure that he doesn't fall in. Thanks, Tony.
No worries.
Okay, so we can see him. He's exchanging IMs right now with Anurag. And so again, while this is happening, I'll stop if it starts ringing, but what's essentially happening in the background is that Anurag is calling Tony, but he's calling Tony's virtual Windows session that's down in California, and then he'll connect to that directly. And then Tony's just has a lightweight client here on his laptop here up here in Redmond, where he's connected to that session.
Yep, sounds good. All right, so let's see.
Yep, and so as I sort of thought what might happen, the demo gods will probably be a little unkind to us, but as that's getting set up, I think I'll do a little bit of conversation around it. So. Again, so the setup really is that there's a Windows session. Oh, here we go. We're using a fairly low resolution here to support Skype meeting broadcast. So obviously, you will be allowed to use a resolution higher than 2:1. And so we're going to go ahead and we had a little bit of bump, and we will just try one more time and to get ourselves connected here. So. Yep, and so again, the solution really does provide remote access anywhere around the world, and so that part is pretty great. So why don't we cut back over to Tony's screen, and we can take a look at him. He's making a call now to Anurag. And of course, we did it several times last night. Yep. We did it several times this morning.
Yep.
And of course now, the demo gods once again. I think I forgot to offer some incense or other items. Typically, maybe a small pile of oranges is offered to our ancestors in order to ensure that these calls can go through. But
so we tested all morning. It worked, and we go online, switch environment, and
So part of the challenge is that we're inside the Microsoft campus doing this, and so we've put Tony's, his domain joined VMware laptop. We've sort of squeezed it onto our guest network. And so we're probably bumping into stuff that's probably not even related to the product itself, but more of our network connections. So, okay.
So let's do this. We'll try it. I think that basically the demo guys aren't going to cooperate right now. So basically, let's get back to the session.
Yeah, I think so. So we're going to cut back over to slides. Sorry, guys. You can go ahead and fill out the form saying, those guys are great, but their demo sucks. I gotcha. No worries. We're going to cut over back to the slides and continue on.
Okay. All right. So We in Q1 of this year, we released the first release of a beta for the Windows client, and what that allowed many of our customers to do is try it out. To make audio and video calls. The key thing here is that in that first beta, basically, we were able to support the Skype for Business 2015 client as well as Skype for Business 2015 server. What we just released recently in our Q2 release with the Horizon 7.2 release was we released a GA version of the Windows client, as well as adding support for additional things like Office 365 and the Skype for Business 2016 client. That was important for many of our customers. So what you'll see, I don't have anything on the right-hand side. We are working towards...
Yeah, it's a little suspicious, Tony, that we've got a roadmap, but we have nothing in that's right half. What's going on there?
Yeah, so basically, you're going to have to attend VMworld to figure out, or to hear about what we're going to release. But essentially, we're going to have 2 releases in the second half of 2017, one in Q3 and one in Q4. And it's going to address many of the features that were in the previous column of what was not supported, as well as additional things like Linux and Mac clients.
Yeah. Yep. All right, Tony. So I'm going to just call you a cheater a little bit and not having a little bit of roadmap, but there are some really key things, and with a quarterly release cycle that they're planning, I feel like you guys are really going to be able to begin hitting those items. But yeah, so Tony did sneak a little plug-in for VMworld, which I think is great.
Yep.
And if you thought this act was great, we do too. We're taking it on the road.
Yep.
So Tony and I will be out at VMworld in Vegas in August, and I hope to see both Skype for Business customers, VMware customers, and then the coveted Skype for Business and VMware customer to go ahead, and we'll have a longer session on the solution, I think, and we'll have probably more demos and more integrated demos for us to pursue and be able to see everything we've got. And if you have any feedback, like I will be there to assist Tony from a Skype for Business perspective. If any of you would like to give Tony feedback on what you'd love to see in his session, I think he'd love to hear about it. Like if there's any particular information, or is there any particular style of demo you'd like to see, or some particular feature set, it'd all be good, and we can take that through the Q&A. So,
All right, so we have ringing now. I think Anurag's trying to give me a call, but so essentially with the 7.2 release, we also have a private beta for the Linux client, and for customers that are interested in that, basically please go ahead and email Horizon SfB@vmware.com, and we're going to grant you access to a private beta community where you can download the bits and try it out.
Yeah, let's bring up Tony's slide there for a moment, if we could. There's some information on there that I'd love for the audience to see. So, and that's exactly how you're going to be able to get to the private beta, and also any general information. And if there's, what we oftentimes have is like our own sellers are on these calls as well, and sometimes, especially with partners, they're like, "Hey, how do we engage?" So, is this URL or this email address is also good for that?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So we have the product team monitoring this URL or this email alias. So basically, we'll proactively respond and basically give you guidance as far as how you can get more information, how you can get access to the private beta and whatnot.
Okay, good. We've got an interesting, and so I think now we're going to move on and just grab any last questions. One just came through. Thanks, Raj. Is Chromebook client on the roadmap, Tony?
That's a great question. So we've heard recently that there are some customers interested in using Chromebooks. So it's something that we're having discussion within the product team as far as what it would take to support it. And at the moment, we're not ready to basically commit to adding Chromebook, but it's something that we are having discussions about.
Okay, and maybe it's something we can talk about more in August out at VMworld. I will say, just keep in mind, we also an interesting development occurred when Google began supporting Android on the latest versions of Chromebook. That just happened fairly recently. So this is for fairly modern Chromebooks. I've got one sitting on my desktop. So the native Skype for Business Android client actually runs on the we like that sound so much, we just randomly play it during our broadcast. So what I was saying was maybe we can, you can mute that. Or not. Okay. And so, sorry, it's so distracting. But what we're saying is that the Android client that we've created runs on modern Chromebooks. So whoever asked that, you want to go ahead and take a look at running that Android client on your Chromebook. There's some supportability issues around the way the screen's laid out, etc. But essentially, there is that option. So you'll probably be eventually looking at 2 different choices for that. And that's why I love to say, hey, we really do have a broad coverage of clients on the platform, especially with great partners like VMware here to help us do that.
Yep.
Okay, so, and the URL to get, again, is Horizon SfB at VMware.com. Actually, not URL, I'm sorry, that's the email address where people, customers and field folks can make inquiries about the solution directly to VMware's product team.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So I think that's it, Tony. I don't know if you have anything else you want to add.
No. So again, basically, hopefully you're able to attend VMworld, and if so, basically you can meet Paul and myself in person.
Yep, that'll be great. And feel free to buy me a beer. I won't speak for Tony, but I'm all about it. So, all right, guys. Thanks a lot and for joining once again the Skype meeting broadcast where we covered getting started with VDI for VMware.
Yep.
Bye, everybody.
Cheers. Thanks again.